Welcome to Share Views with Stefano Barbaglio, who's Director at Cassiopeia Services, and our guest, Michael Masterman, who's Chairman of W Resources. How are you today, Michael?
Great to be here, Zach.
Okay, W, I only learnt recently that W was the periodic table code for tungsten, and tungsten, I think, is one of the few metals that have been in a sort of bearish market. I think uranium's not that healthy, whereas iron ore's gone through the roof, other metals gone through the roof. Can you just explain to us where tungsten is going, what it's been doing, and what it might do?
Well, tungsten's used in all sorts of industries, but primarily related to steel. So in automobiles, it's tungsten used extensively in cutting tools, aerospace cutting tools, drilling and mining, cutting drilling tools. So it's got a very diversified base. Iron ore's been running, steel's been running, construction's been running. I think we're going to see a pickup in the tungsten price with perhaps a delay.
Right, I mean, it's already rebounding, apparently.
Yeah, look, the last 3 weeks have been very good. It's gone from around about $190 per MTU to around about $220. So that's a pretty healthy 30% kick in a relatively short period of time. I presented at the Argus Tungsten Conference last week, and what was very, very clear is that there are emerging shortages of concentrate. So from our mine, we produce concentrate. The other miners in Spain and in Europe produce concentrate. For a whole variety of reasons, the industry and the downstream producers are increasingly short of concentrate, and that's putting a lot of upward pressure on the prices.
Right, so the delay is there, but I mean, isn't it, I mean, just from a layperson's perspective, if iron ore is going up and it's being used a lot, etc., it would be rather difficult for tungsten not to follow it.
Yeah, look, we don't want to count our chickens too early, but it's certainly starting to tick up, and on the supply of what we produce, it's increasingly tight.
Right, just want to go on to W Resources itself. Plenty of news flow about your company. Could you just run people through that?
Okay, so the news flow last week related to copper and gold assets. We're looking at a spin-off of those assets. We've been incredibly successful with our advanced exploration work in São Martinho in Portugal and our 2 copper mines in Portugal. That hasn't been reflected in the W Resources share price or market capitalisation. I would actually say in our market cap they're probably worth 0. What we want to do is we want to find an efficient, fast way in which we can get the value of those copper and gold assets, for which we've had a few spectacular results lately, into the hands of shareholders so they can monetise that value.
Right, so just to make it clear, you made a discovery, a significant discovery, and the market didn't move at all off the back of that.
Yeah, look, São Martinho, we drilled a very successful hole. We struck 56 metres of gold from surface at 2.6 grams a tonne. Think of a 20-storey building of continuous gold mineralisation. Any other dedicated copper gold company, our share price would have gone up very significantly. In contrast, our share price went down. And I think it's some frustration of having tungsten and copper and gold together. What the board's decided to do is pave the way for a spin-off of the Copper Gold Resources PLC company from W Resources. That means a shareholder currently in W Resources will get all the upside that comes with our La Parrilla and Regua tungsten mine developments, but also we'll be able to more directly share in the success we've had on our copper and gold assets.
And Michael, what's the timeline with the copper and gold assets?
So the key is to do really good preparation. 2 reasons for that. You can go more quickly, and secondly, you keep the costs down. We did a small capital raising, some of which will be used to do the pre-IPO development of Copper Gold Resources PLC. And in parallel, we'll move the tungsten assets along.
Do we have a date for the IPO?
No, we don't have a date for the IPO. It takes 4 to 6 months to do these things properly. As everybody knows, there's a very strong compliance, particularly in the UK. But we have a team that's done one of these IPOs recently, and that's been very successfully. I think the structure of Copper Gold Resources will be very, very nicely pitched for the UK market, and I expect to have very strong support.
Sorry, which market are you going to be going on to? Is it AIM or?
We'll go on the London Stock Exchange. AIM is probably the natural market, although we will have give some consideration to the Standard Board.
If we move to your flagship assets in Spain, La Parrilla, would you like to explain a little bit the progress there and when we are going to expect to restart production?
Okay, so our primary objective with La Parrilla is to put in place the tungsten production capacity at 2 million tonnes of ROM, 2,500 tonnes per annum of tungsten concentrate. At that kind of level, we have very, very competitive operating costs and can generate good margins. We have in the back end of last year and have the option to produce on a smaller scale operation, but the most important thing to me is to get the large scale operation up and running. That's a lot of work on the engineering and procurement fronts underway, and we'll give an update to the market on the overall development plan for that back end of April.
Right, okay. Well, just to finish off, you're a wise old head as far as the mining sector is concerned. We're 1 year into a rebound for the mining stocks of all shapes and sizes. Interest rates in the US going up, is that good, bad, indifferent? How do you think that's going to pan out?
Well, I think globally you've got a situation where the two largest economies in the world, China and the United States, are growing very rapidly. I think in a kind of healthy way, it's useful for US interest rates to gradually come up to, for want of a better word, more normalised levels. And to the extent that reflects a continued pickup and strength in the US economy, that's absolutely good for us. Similarly, China's just had their big annual meetings in Beijing, talking about nearly the same amount of growth this coming year as last year.
Yeah, they told us what it's going to be, which is really handy because it gets rid of that forecasting stuff.
Yeah, they're very good at hitting their targets.
Yes, yes. So China also, that's obviously the real driver of the mining sector. So that seems to be at least steady as she goes. There's no surprises coming from there.
Yeah, look, China is having a construction building boom in the major cities. That's driving all sorts of metals consumption, all the way from the tungsten in the excavators doing the construction or demolition of the various buildings through to the stainless steel in your sink in the apartment for the middle class of China as they grow their wealth, and that's driving metal consumption.
Okay, we'll see how that goes. Michael Masterman from W Resources, thank you very much for coming in today.
A pleasure, Zach. Great to see you.